Hello, and welcome to another edition of Uconomy. I'm Thomas Fox.
And I'm still Nunzio Bruno.
Still Nunzio Bruno.
Yeah, still.
And right now we're going to be talking a little bit about millennials,
right?
And and how they've been affected by economy. And millennials are what's the age bracket?
Wow, see, I got excited. I was going to jump 18 to 34 are millennials.
18 to 34. It's a spring break crowd going into the liquid lunchers right there. So we got a good breadth of
liquid luncher?
The liquid luncher. How old are you? How young is he? Does anybody remember what a liquid luncher is? Anyway.
Wow, pushing 30 and I still don't know what that is.
30 after 30, you saw right to have a martini or two at lunch.
Oh, right,
yeah,
right.
Liquid lunch. But that was okay to say. For you Mad Men folks, you probably appreciate that.
Oh, see,
more so.
Haven't gone into that yet.
But we are talking about this career. I mean, obviously, job markets change dramatically. There used to be that when I was growing up, my grandparents would talk to me about education, even though I didn't go the traditional education path. There was that path to employment, which started at, you go to school, you get out of school, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get yourself a degree, and then you get into the workforce. And it seemed to work out pretty good up until the last couple of years when we had the economic downturn. And now, we're in some tough shape, the country. We're getting better, depends on who you listen to. But we're making some good strides. We're trying. But we still have this issue where it's a buyer's market when it comes to employment. And there used to be, basically all the old rules that I've seen are broken. If you're over 40, you're not employable anymore. Right. People, because the thought process used to be, hey, you know what, this guy's coming in for a parking spot. He's 45 years old, he's going to retire in a couple of years anyway, so he's just coming in, I'm really not going to get any value out of it. But people are realizing right now, they've pretty much got no money in savings for retirement. They're going to work till the day they drop dead, and that's not a happy prospect to begin with. But it's difficult. So now, employers are looking at those folks more intently, and now you have a choice. Do I go for a college kid that's got a tremendous amount of energy and wherewithal and knowledge, but not practical application? Or do I go to a seasoned professional and work with somebody like that? And that's edging out a lot of college kids right now who are coming out and they're struggling. And we can't forget that one of the biggest challenges folks are facing right now are the student loan debt. It's for the first time ever eclipsed credit card debt in our country. It's quickly approaching $1 trillion right now.
Yeah, approaching, or has it already hit?
I thought it was approaching, but it could have. I mean, we've been here for 5 minutes, so it may have gone over already.
And
don't know that.
To add to the point, I think I just read a story recently in Business Week that said, as far as the average age of retiring workforce is closer and closer to 70, believe it or not. People are hanging on till 70 years old and having active roles, not just a parking seat anymore. You have board members hanging on a little longer. You have presidents and upper level management staying on to keep the drive and the focus of their companies or the employees that they're responsible for moving in the direction of the legacy that they set up to have. And
that's right now. I mean, when the millennials now move up to that point where they're getting into that retirement age, a lot of folks, if you start a new job in a down economy, you're on average going to earn 10% less throughout your entire career. So if these kids are lucky enough to get a job right now, they're already starting out 10% behind the gate. Really have no money for savings. The average college graduate right now is dealing with a debt load of $24,000 in student loan debt, plus maybe another $3,000, $4,000 for good measure of credit card debt. So now you got someone $30,000 in debt coming right out of the gate into a very volatile workforce, and there's no sure footing. And this kind of goes back a little bit to where do you find your place in this economy? We've seen a lot of people become entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and basically start their own life instead of saying, I'm going to go work at a big company, because we've seen what happened at big companies. A lot of folks, despite the time that they had vested in, they were let go. The young, the people I talk to, the younger adults coming out of college, that hasn't been lost on them. They said, my dad, busted his back for 30 years and he got cut in a major layoff. Why am I going to do the same thing? So there's a distrust that I hear a little bit about as well.
And levels of wealth are different as well. I believe, I think the numbers between 20 and 30%. A generation now, the millennial generation between 18 and 34 today, has an average net worth of 30 to 40%. I think that's what it was. Our net worth is about 68% of what it was in 1984, as for the same generation. So you're buying less, you have less assets to start out with, there's more debt, and that possibility of just coming out and working and starting to save to earn towards those things that make a successful future, having assets, a house, being able to start a family, it all has to be pushed back because of that level of net worth.
And and you bring up an interesting point. The last couple of weeks there's been more stories about even Bernanke coming out, Ben Bernanke saying the economy is poised to make a resurgence where it's ready to go. The only problem, consumer spending. Consumers are not yet ready to spend. And when consumer spending makes up 70% of our economy. So now when you have these kids dealing with this, this is even kids. I graduated 8 months ago. My student loan payment is $701 a month. I mean, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I've never thought I'd be this old eating ramen noodles, but I am. It is what it is. But I made that investment in my future. I stand by that investment because my entire life changed by an education. And I think that anybody who makes the argument that you shouldn't go back for an education, I think the only caveat you should have there is if you're going back for liberal arts, you might want to question it. But if you're going back for business, education, things like that, if you're going to a solid career, it'll change education will change your entire perspective for the better. But it's the challenge now is it worth it? And I think it is. I think education is, despite the challenges that they're having. And let's talk a little bit more about these challenges beyond kind of the ones we've already chatted about.
Well, I want to correct myself first. I misspoke. It's actually the percentage I was referring to is 68. There's a 68% drop in real net worth from 1984 to 2009 of households led by someone under the age of 35.
Oh, well, thanks a lot for giving us worse news than you already gave.
I'm sorry.
That's fantastic.
I had the percentages flipped around. Color me half full.
Oh, yeah. Well, what's some of the other challenges are?
Okay, wow, so some more interesting percentages. 23% of millennials say they don't have enough to purchase the basic necessities. So that's groups, some even sustaining families at this point, 18 to 34, and that group, just to kind of put some scope on it, is about 70 million people large, don't have enough to cover basic necessities. 45% have reduced their driving. So whether it's fuel costs or just the expense of owning a vehicle, they've just reduced it as opposed to the next age bracket, which is 35 to 44. 20% hold $10,000 plus in balances on their credit cards on top of student loans. We talked about the net worth. 22% of millennials have put off marriage and starting a family due to financial woes.
And we've seen a lot of that. Where I am at Cambridge, we've heard a lot more about that as well, as people just putting up those life events. But there's some societal components of that as well. Yep. But I think probably one of the biggest ones that you didn't mention too is something that we've heard a lot of. 85% of the college graduates are moving back home with mom and dad. And that's a big issue too when you look at this, because now let's say when your child went to college, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it may be. They left the house and let's say your income was fine. Now we've seen people have reductions in income, or now you're underemployed. You had to leave one job and start another one, making less money. So your household income could have been, let's say, $100,000 when Billy went away to college. But now maybe he's coming home and it's $70,000. Now you're trying to struggle with that. Also, what parent's going to let their kid kind of twist in the wind? Not really. You're going to try and step in and help them out with the student loan debt and things like that.
Again.
And it's so much challenging on our entire economy right now. And it's all coming from this aspect. And let's just paint the picture. I'm going to mess this statistic up, but either way, I think it's interesting. The cost for a public education has increased by 250% over the last 20 years. The cost for a private education has gone up 450% over the last 20 years. That's the cost of tuition. How much of income's risen in those last 20 years?
Maybe 3 or 4% a year, if that, just to grow with inflation.
Yeah, with the cost of an education, and that's part of the cost of the education has skyrocketed, and this is a challenge that we're facing, and this is a marketplace issue, I believe, although other people believe otherwise, that it's not a marketplace issue. I find it to be a marketplace issue. I think people were just saying, hey, what do we want to pay Professor Jones? Well, I don't know, let's just throw something at the wall and see what sticks. You guys can't see it, but under the table, he's needling me right now. Yeah, needling.
Wow.
But there are challenges, and and part of it is the cost of education, and there's a couple of local universities that done. I know Mount Holyoke has done a really good job of trying to pull back. There's no tuition increases, if I'm not mistaken, for this academic year.
Okay.
They made an announcement for that recently, even though it's still $35,000 a year to go, but that's still better than $37,000. And it's a good institution. But you're going to see more, I think, in my mind, you're going to see more institutions try and pull that back and really try to find where that line in the sand is, because obviously these folks can't handle it. It's not, and let me say, when I say they can't handle it, not that they don't have the skills, which is another issue, but it's more they've just got so much dumped on their lap. It's so much to deal with at once.
Oh yeah, agreed.
And especially when the labor, when you have a market out there, when people are not really hiring the way they used to, you don't have that. You always got to be positive in anything. Listen, I could be walking through the jungle with tigers coming at me, and I got to try to find some way to be positive, or I'm going to be dead. I might be dead anyway, but at least I'll have a smile on my face. And the same thing happens here. He said, I will not. But the same thing happens here. You're going to be facing some challenges, and you need some upbeat momentum. You need some good folks to stick with you through this, and especially when you have these overwhelming odds right here. Part of it comes down to doing some research. I mean, when I talk to kids coming out of college, I'll ask them certain questions, and I'll be honest, some don't even know how to Google. And
No. See, I can't believe that a college kid doesn't know how to Google something.
I've heard from several. I'm like, oh, did you Google it? They're like, oh, I never even thought of that, man. I'm like, yeah.
I mean, I've read plenty of research paper that probably started out.
Well, you probably read research papers that copy paste from Wikipedia. Yeah.
Oh, well, amidst all of these negative, trying to stay positive kind of facts, that we did want to kind of end with a few tips to try to help you save money. Can't leave a show on a negative note. So I pulled some of these from CNBC Money Watch. Just to try to help you curb a few bucks. Some of them a little more common than others. Let's start off. One of the first one is trying to get your teaser rate back from a cable company. So if your rates have started to increase and you're a good customer, give them a call. Kind of do a little polite complaining. Do that whole threaten to leave, stomp your feet, and hopefully try to get your teaser rate back. I've read in some instances that people make or can save $300 to $400 a year getting their rates back below to those teaser rates.
Sometimes with those, when you do that change will be for a certain period of time. Sometimes they'll do it for 6 months. So you want to be sure when you're asking them to do that, how long they agree to do it for would be one of the questions you want to follow up as well. But remember too, for some of the younger millennials, a lot more driven by finding your own video online as well too. I mean, cable usage among the younger adults is less and less because people want to watch TV on their own time.
Oh yeah, I've cut the cord, especially by getting a Roku box. I do a lot of internet streaming, Netflix and Hulu.
Yeah, it is great services, and there's going to be, I think even Sony Network is working on their own cable channel for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 75 that they'll have out in 2 years or whatever it may be.
Wow. One that I liked, I have a whole list of them, buy knockoffs. And I'm not talking about watches or wallets or clothes, but things that we already have every day, like a printer, right? You go to the printing companies, HP, a lot of those big companies, they'll sell you a printer at a loss because they know that you're going to need their ink later down the line.
Yeah.
Right, so that's where the premium comes in. But if you spend a little time on Amazon or eBay, you can find quote-unquote generic or knockoff cartridges that fit, oftentimes made in the same factories as the name brand ones, for about a quarter of the price. So there's a few ways to save there.
I would also say use your network too. We are, despite how you look at it, but social media, Facebook, Twitter, they're all networks. If you're looking for something, put it out there what you're looking for. Yep. You never know how many people. I mean, I've given people, I had an extra TV lying around. I'm not going to ask somebody for $50 for a TV. So I say, here, just take it. You never know who's got something that you might need. So if you're looking for couches or whatever it is, sometimes it's not bad, especially if you're starting out. Send it out to your Facebook friends. Hey, anybody got an extra couch they're looking to get rid of? Hey, can't hurt. Besides, most of the time people want to get out of the garage or wherever it is anyway. Yep. So.
And that goes into one of the last things is own and keep stuff. So whether it's a car, if you're debating a lease, or should I lease something brand new, or should I try to own something a little older? Cost-wise, in the long run, when you own something, you're not paying interest on it anymore. The payments are fixed relatively, and especially with couches and furniture, bigger ticket items. The longer you can keep something without worrying about when to replace it, the more savings you'll have. I
would still have my '71 Bonneville if I didn't blow it up by accident. It was an awesome car.
Sounds like
it was a tank, man. Anyway, and the same thing here as well. Do some research, find some cost-cutting ways.
Yep.
You can always call if you're having issues with your budget or anything like that. You can always call a nonprofit credit counseling agency like Cambridge Credit. Also, if you're having issues with your student loan debt, reach out to your student loan services. Find out what kind of programs they have available to help you. You may need to get a forbearance or defer your payments if you can't deal with them right now. Or you may have to go into a different structured repayment program. And there's some really interesting programs out there. So you can go to a website like finaid.gov, I think it's called. Finaid.gov, and see what they have to offer.
So millennials, there's hope. Don't give up. And thanks for watching another episode of Economy.
All right, find us on Twitter, Economy Show, and look us up on Facebook as well, Economy Show.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.